The fight is scheduled for 9th of March, and it will see arguably the two best active finishers in the UFC face off against each other in Marlon Vera and Sean O'Malley. Personally, I see this fight as a question of whether the more probing and creative offense of Sean O'Malley can either crack through the defense of Vera or open up enough of a sizable lead in the early stages to set up a points victory. On the Vera side, the keys to victory for me are going to be avoiding taking a big strike early, winning one of the first 3 rounds, and then pouring it on late. There's also a narrative out there that this fight will see the boxing-focused O'Malley against the Muay Thai skills of Vera. I'm not sold on the narrative of this being a boxer against a Muay Thai stylist, although to be fair, I've not seen a poll, I've just seen some comments. The first reason that I'm not sold on the idea of the boxer versus Muay Thai narrative is because O'Malley has good kicks. The second reason I'm not sold on this narrative is because Vera's kick defense is actually a bit suspect, and even in the first O'Malley fight, a lot of people talked about Vera's kicks, but O'Malley did also land significant kicks of his own. Like most fans, I would credit the first fight as a Vera victory, but O'Malley was getting the better of the early exchanges until he developed a dead leg. Since the first fight, it looks to me as if Vera has doubled down on his status as a 5-round finisher. O'Malley has doubled down on his status as a knockout puncher. When I say that Vera has doubled down on his status as a 5-round finisher, what I mean to say is that if you look at some of Vera's early fights in the UFC, such as against Brad Pickett, I noticed 2 things that look different about Vera. Firstly, he looks to take preemptive bounces. Secondly, it looked to me they had a bit more speed in terms of his lower body movements to help him to get out of range. This is important as going into the fight with O'Malley, most know he's going to try to time a big headshot. When looking at Vera's record, most notice that he's never been finished. However, if his feet have slowed down, then this will make it easier for O'Malley to achieve the kind of mastery of range that will make a knockout much more likely. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me here. I may be over-analysing, but the reason I think Vera's feet have slowed down is because of his training style. He's known for going on long 10 to 15 mile training runs. Whilst these training runs have helped him get a lot of late finishes in the past, I think he's grown into the role of the endurance guy a bit too much. On the O'Malley side, I don't think things have changed too much either. That said, with him having finished most of his opponents since the Vera fight, I expect him to be full of confidence in his ability to get a knockout. If you look at how O'Malley fights, I would consider him a risk taker both in how he approaches the striking and the groundwork. He regularly throws up submission attempts on the ground, and even against Peter Yan, he stepped inside a lot to pepper him with a jab, which I thought was quite tactically aggressive. So you may have noticed from what I've been saying that I'm favouring O'Malley. Whilst Vera is a good boxer in some ways, he's good at blocking, he's good at measuring range, and has some subtle head movement. He also seems to have good punch mechanics, as he has a lot of knockdowns from punches, despite not being the most explosive guy. The issues for me are that firstly, there's no particularly good range for Vera. He has memorable kick offense, but O'Malley, whilst also not having good kick defense, does have good kick offense. Secondly, Vera has become over-reliant on blocking as a defensive technique, which I don't think will work against a puncher as explosive and tactically aggressive as O'Malley. However, there are a couple of reasons to not be completely confident in O'Malley. If you go back to O'Malley's first fight in the UFC against Terrion Ware, he started to look tired as early as the second round. If, for whatever reason, he starts to show fatigue as early as that against Vera, he will be in serious trouble. Against Chris Matinho, O'Malley hit him with everything in the kitchen sink, but Matinho was able to keep coming. If Vera is able to absorb that kind of beating, then he could potentially turn things around later. O'Malley also broke his foot against Andrei Sukumath. If you combine that with the dead leg against Vera, the idea that he's fragile is not baseless. A tendency of O'Malley's that Vera could exploit is that when O'Malley gets backed up, he tends to roll underneath punches to escape pressure. Vera knocked out Dominic Cruz, timing the exact type of roll O'Malley uses when under pressure. There is a chance this fight will hit the ground for a round or two. O'Malley has occasionally shot in the past. Vera's best takedowns seem to come from the clinch. I expect both of these guys will mainly be looking for a stand-up fight though. So overall, I would put it at about 60-40 that O'Malley will beat Vera. I think this has the makings for a better fight than some are giving credit, as both guys have better offense than they do defense. If Vera is able to make a comeback, then I expect him to have to get up from being dropped at least once. Let me know in the comments how you see this going.